Call the honourable member Kevin, Kevin Hay.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In my second reading speech on this bill, I reflected on my time over a couple of terms on the West Coast Taipōtini Conservation Board. And I wanted to reflect some more on that because I well remember a briefing given to the New Zealand Conservation Authority about the drivers for the dispersion of deer in New Zealand. And it turns out that the main way in which deer move from place to place in New Zealand is that they are deliberately introduced into new areas. Now, Mr. Speaker, what that means actually is that in relation to this bill, there is a fundamental conflict of interests between those who see animals like deer as assets to be managed and those who see them as pests. And bluntly, the question facing New Zealand is, do we want to see more of these animals or do we want to see fewer of them? And we have a great example from the so-called tar control plan, where numbers that in the early 80s were around 3,000 tar have been in fact managed up as the interest of hunters have been more reflected to around 10,000 now. So one of the major risks of this bill and one of the major risks of the confusion that it introduces about the responsibility for management of particular areas of land and the conflict between the objectives of the Game Animal Council and the Department of Conservation is that we will see an expansion of the feral range of some of these pest animals. It is possible to strike a balance, I'm sure. I'm not a hunter, but I am a pretty regular backcountry user. I'm a tramper, I'm a mountain biker. I often talk to hunters in huts, and we find we have a lot in common. These are people who are also passionate about backcountry recreation, passionate about our natural heritage. But, Mr. Speaker, fundamentally, this is not now a bill about them. It's a bill about and for the big money trophy hunters. It's a very, very small and specific part of the hunting sector. And to make it worse, this Game Animal Council is going to be effectively competing for control of some of our conservation estate with the department, which has been depleted in money, depleted in capacity, and this council even now is going to be funded from vote conservation, weakening the department even further. So that balance that could have been struck has not been by this bill. Today we've heard from the Honourable Peter Dunn that he'll be very surprised if the Game Animal Council sought to undermine 1080 use for pest control in the conservation estate. And Damien O'Connor's told us that Gary Ottman has told him that no, they've given him assurances that they won't do this. Well, please forgive my cynicism, Mr. Speaker. I believe that the Game Animal Council will seek to undermine 1080 use for pest control in our backcountry. I believe they will do that because it's in their interest to do so, and that will be a very clear example of that conflict of interest. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that successive governments in fact have tried to avoid. It's come to the House today and passing through its remaining stages under urgency because of the government's debt to Peter Dunn. It's a bad bill for conservation, it's a bad bill for our backcountry, and it's actually, Mr. Speaker, even a bad bill for our recreational hunters, the everyday Kiwi recreational hunter. That's why it's been opposed by all of the government departments who have been asked to comment on it, and is also universally condemned by conservation organisations. And even those organisations like the Deerstalkers Association, who have been calling for more say for many, many years, are going to find that this Game Animal Council is not for them at all. The Game Animal Council is no longer, under the amendments that are agreed to by the House today, even required to consult with the Deerstalkers Association. It's not a bill for them. It's a bill for just that tiny part, the big money trophy hunting part, essentially part of a commercial industry. bad bill, Mr Speaker, and one that we will oppose.
I call